Hello and welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the 23rd installment of the Historical Humans podcast. My name is Justin Woods, and I'm joined today by my fellow co host, Aaron Gilpin, and Colum Coleman. And today we are venturing to the Caribbean. We're going on a little bit of a vacation. We're going to try a new business adventure, right? What could possibly go wrong in this beautiful
Uh,
paradise?
yes, it is quite a lovely place we've chosen to go to. So we're going to the Isle of Despair.
No. You
Not.
use the
Aptly,
advertising
very,
name.
very aptly named. It is, uh, it is in fact Tobago. It is a very beautiful place, uh, in the modern day, but during the good old-fashioned colonial times, from the 15th to basically 19th centuries, it was hell on earth for
Well,
so
at least
so
for
many.
the Europeans.
Yeah,
Yep,
yeah, it was hell on earth. Post Europeans.
yep. Well, I'm pretty sure the people living on the island weren't too happy about it either. So, uh, little thing about this island, it's currently a part of the nation of Trinidad and Tobago. It's one half of that lovely little partnership. And it was first sighted by Europeans in 1498 on Columbus's third voyage because two times just weren't enough.
We'll keep letting this man come back.
Yeah, it's a real menace. Like, he broke into your house, realized that you had a lot of money, and then looked at the neighborhood and went, you know, I bet these other houses also have a good bit of money.
Yeah.
And then he destroys the property value, buys it all up, and then
Burns down the
gentrifies it.
house.
Yes, everything goes crazy. So, this little island's about 116 square miles, uh, located just just north of South America. So it's this lovely little key position at the time for dealing with the Spanish Main. It's a lovely little strategic position. And it was it was sorry, it was colonized over 30 times. Almost all
Attempted.
the colonies fail.
And in
We
that
love
time,
to see it, guys.
yes, except this is where European perseverance really gets taken to the next level. Because not only was it attempted to be colonized over 30 times, this place changed hands between 31 and 33 times in total. So it was basically like, this is mine now. And then you
Yeah,
guys are like,
that,
no, this is mine. And then we fight
that's
about it. The island burns down and we move on.
I
yeah,
mean,
that's
like,
the
also, there's some really interesting names for that, like nation-wise that tried to colonize it. I mean, like you got the Spanish and the French, and I mean the Dutch, but the Swedes and Latvians.
yeah, yeah. It is it's very fun. They become it is 31 to 33 is the conservative estimate for the number of times people tried to get on this island.
Conservative?
Yeah, that's the conservative. So that's like the confirmed individual colony count
Oh,
that
Jesus.
we have going on here on Tobago. But yeah, it basically becomes the revolving door of Europe, and everyone who goes there dies.
I,
Which
Good for the natives.
Also,
not really, really not.
What?
another thing to point out too is it was cited in 1498, and there wasn't a permanent European settlement until the 18th century. So
Yeah,
you're talking 400 years of just fuckery.
300
Uh,
years.
I just assumed the natives were the ones destroying it, but then again,
Well, no, the natives do destroy a good number of them, but you live on a 116 square mile island, and you are constantly at war with every nation of Europe.
I forget about that. I
That
forget.
that's not a good time. Natives are not happy with this. They are not having a good time. They're winning, and they win more than anyone else in history. But it is not a good time.
Oh boy. Yeah, I forget. Forget a lot about the wars.
Yeah, it's yeah, things go pretty sideways for a lot of this. The island is originally called Madalena, but the English decide no.
Tobago.
It's the
Yeah,
Island of Despair.
yeah, yeah. They decide to rebrand it at one point just because they decide, you know something, this this harmless substance called tobacco is making them a ton of money out in Virginia, and we should rename the island so we can put more plantations on it.
Uh, Colum, are you sponsored by Marlboro
Don't
for
be
that
ridiculous.
statement?
Don't be ridiculous. I'm here with Camel.
Oh no!
I'm a Lucky Strike Sky myself.
Even,
For the
even
record, we
even
as a
worse.
podcast at Historical Humans do not condone smoking
We do
nor
not
big tobacco
we do not condone the consumption of any addictive substance whatsoever.
unless you pay us.
You can pay Justin.
Yes, yeah, I'll sell out. Everyone else could maintain their
Anyway.
morals.
Coke on the
Anyway,
other hand.
we're having some fun with the history of the
Coca-Cola.
world and
Yeah,
really how tobacco was viewed at that time as pretty harmless.
yeah, viewed as harmless, but then it was also one of the biggest cash crops because you could make so much money in it.
Yeah.
Is it second only to cotton? I think.
I think this actually precedes the importance of the cotton.
Okay.
It did better than cotton. Tobago, the tobacco doesn't take off, but cotton kind of does, and it's a major drop for the Tobago economy, going from tobacco to cotton,
Wow,
and then the
Ooh.
cotton industry collapses.
hate when that happens.
It all goes sideways, but that's way ahead of us. That's when there's actually sustained presence on the island. Let's start going through all the ways things go horribly wrong for people first. So, um, let's see where to start with.
I would say
I'd
the
say,
Bridgestone settlement,
yeah, all right. So I'd say that would be
colonial settlement.
yeah, all right. So that'd be the British. In 1580, English sailors make landfall on Tobago. Um, they look around, decide that no one lives there, and leave.
I that's an
That's the only
interesting
thing the English have done that's probably good.
But see, that's a really interesting perspective because they left because there were no Europeans. But had there been Europeans, the British would have said, "No, I like what you've got here. I'm gonna take it."
Well, actually, the fact that they recorded no Europeans, and by this they mean the Spanish, is what draws Britain towards the island later on because they realize there is an island off the coast of Spanish-controlled South America that the Spanish aren't inhabiting.
Francis Drake has entered the chat.
Free free
Oh,
real
no.
estate. In 1595, they actually mapped the island in Robert Dudley's expedition to map just all the islands of the West Indies, sort of as a massive coastal survey, and they map out Tobago with that. 1596, we get Sir Walter Raleigh, his lieutenant, actually sets foot on the island, only to confirm that it is not, in fact, the City of Gold. In the unending quest for El Dorado, and he promptly leaves as well.
Oh, do they really not know that El Dorado's in Illinois?
They do not.
Because
know
there's
any-
a whole town just called El Dorado. For some
Yeah.
reason, the locals call it El Dorado, though.
Yeah,
That's because like anything good.
that's because they got copyright struck when they called it El Dorito.
And then the movie El Dorado led to more difficulties with copyright, so
Yeah.
that was the only royalty-free use they could
Yeah.
have.
Yeah. So it's been about 100 years at this point. No one's really done anything with the island, and we get to 1608, and we have the first official claim to the island by a European power. This is the first time someone officially claims it. It is once again the English, and they claim it in the name of James the First.
No, God, no.
Oh no. Oh
Yeah.
no.
Yeah, it's a personal favorite of Aaron's over there.
Ugh.
Loves the man so much. We got, King Jimmy Boy posters all over his room.
Yeah, that'll be Aaron's fan club, the King James fan club.
You know that TikTok trend where it's like where they're like holding the funeral service and like, oh, they're in heaven now, but it's really them in hell and they're beating the shit out of someone. That's me with King James.
That was a tortured analogy for this, but okay.
So you're going to hell purely so you could torture King James.
I've got
No,
some
he
beef.
feels like his soul is being beaten alive by King James every time we mention
Yeah,
King
no,
James.
Aaron's hell. He's gonna go to hell, and King James is gonna be beating him up.
No, man, I'm throwing some fucking hands.
It's on site.
It is.
Let's not imply the British monarchs go to hell. It's too soon.
I can't see.
Do you think Diana let her in?
Listen.
Anyway,
Let's not. So the British, they renamed the island to Tobago at this point because they're trying to encourage people to get that tobacco.
wacky.
Tobacco,
no
Tobago.
one actually goes
Understandable.
for two key reasons. Number one, Virginia tobacco is far more profitable. Number two, the Spanish are right next door and they do not like this claim. They really don't like this claim.
I mean,
Also, I can't imagine why it'd be more profitable in Virginia.
They would have done the same there, Justin.
I know.
yeah,
This
They would have done the same.
this is
It-
the
it's
16th century.
It's not like this is going to be volunteer grown tobacco here.
I mean, you're just thinking. I mean, the Irish were definitely thrown at it a handful of times.
Yeah. So, yeah. This ends up being a claim in name only,
Wow.
and the Spanish, the French, and the Dutch all lodge rival claims.
I like how the Dutch just get involved, as if their conquest of India wasn't enough.
Yeah, the Dutch are still a power at this point. They're on the decline, but they're still big enough to throw their weight around and say, "Oh, you have an island, it's ours." They haven't gone the way of the Portuguese quite yet.
I also like how this is really indicative of this island because you're starting to see a lot of the conflict back and forth. But just wait till you start seeing some of the other players in this colonial hodgepodge.
Yeah,
I
fun
mean-
fact. The Portuguese are the only ones that don't try for it.
Wow.
For once, the Portuguese were smart.
No, the Portuguese were always pretty smart. They figured out how to get around Africa.
Yeah, which is more than a lot of Europeans did at the time.
Yeah.
To be fair, there
and-
was a bit of the Suez Canal wasn't there yet.
Yeah, and credit to the Portuguese for staying away from this one because Tobago is the precise sort of location the Portuguese love to colonize. It's a coastal island next to a massive, lucrative trading landmass.
Hold on, wait a minute.
They love
Technically,
those.
Wouldn't they have had a claim if because as long from like the Treaty of Tortoise? Sorry, yeah. Wouldn't it have been on their side?
Possibly.
So they would. They're the what? So the fact that the Spanish tried to take it means they violated their own treaty.
Not necessarily. The Spanish just the Spanish, they've not made any move on the island. They just said, no, it's not yours, England. That's too close to Spanish land. It's Spanish.
So, for those of you who are confused at home, if you actually go back and watch our episode about the Empire of Brazil, we talk about this treaty and how it impacts colonization of the New World. Sorry, it's a perfect callback moment. I have to be...
Honestly, I can't be
Yeah,
mad.
it's pretty good.
Anyway, the
Yeah.
Spanish don't want the English to have it.
Yeah. And no, Tobago is not on the Portuguese side of the line. Tobago is
Oh, okay.
off the coast of Venezuela. If it was off the coast of uh, Suriname or even part of Guyana, or it would have qualified.
Okay. Well, now we know that. Now we know.
Yeah, but yeah, I am double checking. Thank you, Google Maps.
So close yet so far.
Yeah,
Maybe that's why the Portuguese they're like, we don't need this one. We're trying
and
to figure things out with Brazil. We're good.
yeah, and as a result of all this naysaying, the British do something that British colonizers have almost never done.
Succeed.
No,
Oh.
they always succeed. In 1614, I'm sorry, the Spanish do something they've almost never done.
Oh, okay.
It's even
That's
worse.
yeah. No.
It's even worse. The Spanish attempt to open peaceful trade relations with the natives of the island.
Why would?
The
Wow.
Spanish did what?
Yeah,
The
I thought that wasn't
Spanish,
their foreign policy.
that isn't. But basically, the Spanish think that they found a market for just their junk and they can trade with these people. The natives do not agree, and this fails miserably. It is a rare instance of Spanish colonial diplomacy meaning something other than bullets.
They finally started breaking away from Cortez diplomacy.
Oh, hell no. This is 1614.
Oh,
They
That's
okay.
going
were
to
they
be
this
another
was like
century and
a
a half. That Cortez diplomacy is going to go right up to the revolution.
this was them going like, "Hey, what if we tried? Like this is a very revolutionary idea. Let's see if it works." And then it didn't work. They're like, "See? This is why.
Yeah.
This is
See.
why."
It seems most likely they just heard a rumor of the French trading for furs in the Hudson Bay and it getting a ton of money for no work, and they said, "Well, we got this island here. Let's see what happens."
Yeah,
And
they
then
heard the rumors. The French were like, "Yeah, we've got them collecting them and bringing them right to us. Like, we just give them these things and they give us the furs. We're making lots of money." And the Spanish were like, "Well, there's this island. They're the only ones we haven't touched."
Yep. Yeah. Uh,
if only they
and
kept it that way.
yeah. Finally, in 1625, we have our first colony of the island.
Do
It's
do do
been
do.
it's been almost been close to a century and a half at this point. It's English privateers. They die horribly.
What a shame.
1626. It's round two. More English privateers. They die horribly. Which just begs the question of I know news is slow, but guys,
They were just like, we better send a second one just in case. And so like the first one gets there and the other one's like halfway there.
it is not even that organized. These are privateers. This is literally the English. There's a bunch of private English citizens on boats in the Caribbean, just independent of each other, decided I want to live on this island in the name of England.
God damn it.
Dock at the island and die. um, I believe they starve to death or succumb to disease, one or the other.
Classic.
The natives do throw rocks at them.
Good.
So, you know, very much not helping.
They're like, I just imagine like, hey, these people over here, they're kind of dying and starving. Should we help them? And by
Yeah.
help them, I mean throw rocks at them.
Let
Yeah.
them eat rocks.
Yeah.
What if that was like, what if that was just like, we're like, oh yeah, let's throw some rocks at them, guys. Like, I just imagine they're like, this will be fun.
Yeah. And yeah, things get heated right after this because 1627 things kick off. 1627, the Dutch finally find where Tobago is on a map.
Oh God.
Um, and they think it's going to make a great site for a colony. Meanwhile, in England, King Charlie I issues a letter patent, which is it's a little piece of paper that says, on behalf of whatever nation, you belong to, you have the rights, the full rights to a colonial territory. Charlie 1 issues a letter patent for Tobago to the Earl of Montgomery. This will technically go nowhere, but it's going to cause a number of diplomatic incidents. However, for the time being, the people of Tobago are safe from the English, as for the next 9 years, the Dutch are just rolling up with the underdog motto of try and try again. They make at least 3 attempts, if not more. It is unclear. They just keep coming to land on the island.
Just throwing enough people at it isn't working, huh?
Yeah. All the attempts fail. The first one, the natives kill. The last one, the Spanish kill. So, friend points for Spain, I guess?
Like, see, now will you buy our junk? No.
No.
Go away.
Yeah, the
where are the French here? Mental on the business.
Yeah. It's pretty funny. The 1636 colony actually seems to have had a chance.
Oh, really?
And then it actually had, like, the population isn't going into rapid decline from indigenous attacks and disease and famine. It begins to fortify itself into a reasonable semblance of a colony. Spain notices this and just sends an armada just to bomb it into oblivion.
Has Spain not learned their lesson about armadas yet?
No, they have not.
It works pretty well for them for a while here.
Yeah. I mean, they lose one to a storm, but like,
damn naval superpowers.
This isn't the French crossing the English Channel here. This is a people who actually know how to use a boat.
How many subtle shots are we going to take at every European power over the course of this podcast?
Depends. You can let me sing Dunlund's Castle, because I can bring the Spanish down with that.
We're just going to keep going. Let's go for it.
Yeah.
I mean, isn't there not one we haven't taken pop shots at? Like, the only one I can think of is Andorra.
Courland. We have not assaulted the colonial empire of Courland.
Which is going to be... that's a spicy part of this. I like that one.
Yeah, all right, yep. And it's
like some recognition of the Latvians, man.
Yep. Yeah.
Unfortunately, it's this.
Yeah. 1637, we get a twofer here. With the Spanish clearing out the Dutch, we have a simultaneous attempt from a bunch of English Puritans who are living in Barbados to colonize Tobago.
Goddamn Puritans.
I didn't have the Puritans on my colonial checklist, but okay.
The natives drive them back to a place called Providence Island, which is not Tobago. And essentially just wipe them out.
Thank God.
Oh, God.
They were doing God's work with that one.
Simultaneously, please don't get us killed. We live in America.
I know where we live.
Simultaneously, Courland enters the fray in 1637. So Courland, also called Latvia, at the time it is the Duchy of Courland. What would one day be Latvia. It's the smallest nation to ever become a colonial power. It was technically a part of Poland, Lithuania, in the sort of sense that Poland, Lithuania claimed it as part of its dominion, and it got to do whatever the hell it wanted.
They're more like an autonomous region.
Technically, yeah.
Cool.
Being a part of Poland, Lithuania does bite it in the ass later down the line, because Poland and Sweden do not get along during this time period.
I mean,
and
understandable.
It's sort of a I'm mad at you, so I'm going to punch your kid brother kind of mentality.
If I can't punch you, I will punch your child.
Something like that. Courland at the time was one of the major exporters from the Baltic Sea. This is one of the major nations from which goods from Europe can go, or East Europe can go out to the rest of the world. So they're a pretty prosperous nation. They take Tobago and Gambia for their colonial empire. It's not a big one, but they get a hold of some pretty nice trade spots. 1637 though, they go for the trinity of losing in their colony.
Oh no.
They have no food.
How?
They are riddled with sickness, both from the journey and from contact with the indigenous people. And the natives actually manage to attack them and murder anyone who isn't already dead.
Wow.
So they really go all in on their colonial pioneer starter pack here with Tobago.
They did a speed run.
Yeah. Yeah. Then this is when things get really spicy because well, Courland really only seems to try when someone else is trying. Because 1639, Courland tries again. And they come under a flag of truce. And they actually manage to land and have a peace treaty with the indigenous people.
Oh.
Unfortunately, they still forgot disease exists, and they all die.
Oh, wah, 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 wah.
They all forgot their inoculations and just keel over.
Get vaccinated, kids.
Yep. At the same time this is happening, the Earl of Warwick, having not learned from anyone, buys the lovely little letters patent from the Earl of Montgomery and proceeds to attempt to conquer the indigenous people of Tobago. This does
That's
not
clearly worked
go
out
well.
so well.
Yeah, they're killed. The Earl of Warwick's people are killed. But never fear, because 1642 comes round again, and it's the Earl of Warwick and Courland both going for it at the same time. Expedition for the Earl of Warwick, 1642, goes marginally better. This time, instead of being absolutely murdered, they're only partially killed and manage to get back on the boat and run away.
Oh, perfect.
So they made it to the boat this time.
Still further than Captain James Cook.
Yeah. Warwick sells the letters patent to the Duke of Coleman, who at this point is an English ally. This is where the letters patent starts to cause problems because you have an English letters patent in a Courlandian duke. This is going to confuse the hell out of the land rights for the next several times this comes up. Courland shows up, and the colonists, apparently recognizing the mark of the English letter patent just in the atmosphere of the people who show up, proceed to immediately start killing the colonists.
Oh, Jesus.
And Courland, once again, is driven back to the sea.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
Why is it always the British? Every time, it's always the British.
If it's not the British, it's the Spanish.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, so 1650 rolls around, and the Courlandiers, who have been getting murdered, are still there, and they've been holding on. This is they hold on. Um, as they're being steadily murdered by people. But sickness 1650 strikes, and that's the undoing. The indigenous attack while the Corlandians are sick, and well, at that point, there aren't just enough. The Corlandians survive, but there's not enough of them to sustain the colony, so they have to leave. Which really sucks because that's the first time anything started to take root here. And it was Corland. It was the underdog, and it's kind of fun to think about that of all these people, they're the ones that actually make it work for the most part. It's
See, it tells you their form of colonization is a better form than the normal hostile.
No. They're still idiots.
Yeah. It's almost like colonization comes with a lot more problems than people.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, give it credit for. However, 1650s are a magical decade here. They're they're just absolutely insane. The Dutch and Courland both go for it.
Yeah.
This is one tiny, all of this over for one tiny island.
It's literally all Courland has.
I mean, like, yeah, but like all this.
Yeah, whoever. Yeah. It's absurd what they fight over. So fun fact, everyone gets pissed about this during the 1650s. The natives attack the colonies, the British attack the colonies, the French attack the colonies.
The French just decided to show up.
Yeah. Well, if they are going to
the French arrive for the first time on the scene here, just to murder the colonies, and the Jamaicans. The Jamaicans actually take out a colony.
Really?
Yeah, there's a bunch of privateers, read interwar pirates, in Jamaica, who realize that they don't have a letter of marque from these people, which means they're free. Means they're free money, and yeah, the privateers destroy a bunch of the colonies. However, 54 sees Courland make the first successful, actually successful attempt to colonize Tobago. For the first time, the colonists send actual soldiers.
They didn't do this before?
No. It is, most of these colonies are literally just groups of families who are given crops. It's literally just farmers and homesteaders.
Oh my god.
That are just literally being sent to die against, a island population that has actual warriors.
Jeez, they really like to strategize here. They really like to
not once do they think, you know what, we should have some armed men protecting this place.
Yeah. And 120 soldiers go with. In addition, in order to prevent all the other powers from raiding the colony, Courland recruits settlers from England and settlers from the Netherlands, which the Netherlands at this time is very close with both the English and the French. So neither of those two major powers are going to really want to attack it. And Spain's not going to want to attack this colony because, well, you just killed citizens of England and France at the same time. Let's go. Let's start a three-way war. Why not?
I would say that'd be I feel like that'd be the first time the English or the French would have ever agreed on something.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and basically, they go for a multi-ethnic approach. They send their own people too, and they make an active effort to share the island with the native people so that the native people don't kill them.
Who would have thought? Who would have thought peaceful coexistence?
And for 4 glorious years, it works.
Wow.
Because we get to 1658, and this colony's population goes up to 25,000 people. 5,000 of which are Corlandians, and 13,000 of which were not here willingly.
Yeah, that's expected.
It's the lovely S word. About little over 1 in 2 people on this island are free labor material.
Yeah, not quite the volunteer force that we talked about earlier, but oof.
Boy.
Then 1658 happens, and the Dutch seize Fort Jacobus, which effectively ends Corland's ability to run the colony on Tobago. The Dutch are able to do this because, as some of you might recall, Courland is technically a part of Poland-Lithuania, and Poland, being at war with Sweden and losing. Courland at this time is actually conquered by Sweden. They come back, but they are conquered by Sweden. And since there is no longer a Courland, the Dutch just sort of decide that, yes, this is ours now.
This is ours now. Hey, while they're gone, let's hurry up and sneak in here.
Yeah, the Dutch managed to convince the garrison of Courland, which was also Dutch, to revolt.
Wow, crazy!
And declare for patriotism.
Hey, you man, where have I heard that one before?
Yeah, it goes quite lovely. It goes this doesn't go well for the Dutch, because by 65, Tobago's not a colony; it's a pirate den.
Oh, we love to see it.
So,
pirates.
Immediately, this spirals out of control.
Captain Jack Sparrow moved in after the Latvians left.
Yeah. And this leads to just a 4-way war between the pirates, the Dutch, the English, and the French. Because the pirates force the Dutch out, the English force the pirates out, and then the French force the English out because we're not having the English hold this island.
God, this is almost like our podcast episode where we talked about the Great Leap Forward. China eradicated one pest, and another one popped up, and then another one. It's like you squash the English, then the French pop up.
Yep. Yeah, so 1667, the Treaty of Breda between the Dutch and the English and the French gives the island back to the Dutch.
But wait, there's more.
1670, the British, working with the native peoples, apparently, or at the very least happening to attack at the same time, remove the Dutch from the island.
I just imagine like the British kind of just show up to the island and like the natives are attacking. They're like, oh,
yeah,
already started without us.
This really seems like that moment when you show up late to a party and there's already things happening, and you basically just show up and go, yeah, okay, I'll join in the fight. Or like
what if the British were there just like to reinforce the colony, and then they were like, oh, it's already under attack?
Nah, they were there to destroy it. They felt it was theirs after clearing out the pirates.
Hey, we got rid of that pest. Now this is ours.
Yeah,
you're just an exterminator.
It's just so bad. And once the Dutch are removed from life, the Third Anglo-Dutch War breaks out in 1672, and Sir Tobias Bridges um, destroys the Dutch colony of Tobago. Like he appears to have burned it to the ground.
Jesus Christ.
1674, the Treaty of Westminster once again returns the island to the Dutch. So we've got about a decade here of just the English burning the island to the ground and then giving it to the Dutch, only to burn it to the ground again.
Yeah, I like how it keeps going back to the Dutch with all these treaties and agreements. It's like, yeah, it's actually the Dutch's, and then the English are like, but wait.
Yep. Yep. 1676, the French decide that the English shouldn't be having all the fun. They invade, destroy the colony, and the French claim the island of Tobago. But they do not attempt to colonize it. Instead, they just circle it with their ships and dare people to come in.
We don't want it, but the English want it, so therefore we don't want them to have it.
You know, respect on the French there. They're like, we're done colonizing.
Yeah.
We're going to be a protectorate now.
Yeah.
We just don't want the English to have it.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah. Yeah, and they just continue to circle it. Fun fact, at this point, Coreland is back, baby.
Oh no.
Yeah, baby. Yeah.
They're their own thing again. David Pumpkin style. I will die for that Dative meme, but I don't care.
David Pumpkin.
You hate him, I know.
I'm not upset, I'm just disappointed.
No, you're not. No, you're not. Exactly the sort of thing you would do. So
Courland.
Yeah, Courland's back, and they're going to claim Tobago as theirs because keep in mind, the Duke of Courland still has this letter from James the First that he bought that says he owns Courland. This is that Courland owns Tobago. The Duke of Courland makes the claim that Charles II had granted Courland all rights to Tobago when the Earl had sold Tobago to Courland. The English say, well, we've made other treaties regarding that island, therefore your treaty is null and void. It is just null and void. It just doesn't exist anymore for us. Which is pretty big FU to Courland, and Courland never manages to set foot on the island again.
It's a bold strategy, Cotton. Let's see how it plays out.
However, in 1730, these papers do manage to cause a diplomatic incident.
Of course they do.
Because in the 1730s, Courland enters into negotiations with Sweden to sell Tobago. To Sweden. Yeah. The people that had conquered Courland in the last war. These people really just don't care who they're fighting as long as they're fighting somebody.
This is European politics in a nutshell, and it just drives me nuts because it's like there's no one defined like battle or group. It's basically just this like pissing match against like 8 people.
Yeah.
I mean, like this for them at this point, war is normal, but it's not personal. Unless it's the British and the French, then it's personal.
Yep. Fun fact: the Portuguese get involved for their one and only time being involved in anything to do with this island. In that the Portuguese declare for this sale. They declare that they will back this sale. They will back Sweden's claim if Sweden buys from Courland.
Oh,
wow.
Sweden never does because England goes to Sweden and they say, listen, Courland has no claim on Tobago. We wrote that paper and we refuse to recognize it. Which pisses so many people off. Because now the sale falls through.
Oh no.
And Sweden, doesn't get, Courland doesn't get any money. Sweden doesn't get to have a legit claim to the island, which is what they were looking for. And Portugal just publicly declared for what England claims is a piece of fraudulent paper. No one is happy, except maybe the English. So no one is happy because they're English.
Yeah.
Yeah, the English could be like, get the greatest news and just go, yeah, it's all right.
Yeah. Sweden.
Let's go, done, yeah?
Yeah, that's all right.
Yeah. Yeah. Sweden says screw it at this point and goes to just make their claim via squatters' rights for Tobago.
Isn't that how most of these games go?
Fun fact, Nordic ice people do not win against tropical Native Americans.
Oh, it's a bit warm here, don't you guys think?
And the indigenous people drive out the Swedes.
Yeah, as someone who has a lot of Northern European heritage, I will say the tropics are my worst enemy. Like, anything over about 60 degrees, I start sweating. I can't imagine going from, like, Sweden to the middle of the Caribbean.
Yeah.
Tell me about it, dude. I sweat. Like, it's like 60 degrees out. It's like perfect.
Like Canada and Leif Erikson, that makes sense. That's a natural progression.
Yeah. And apparently, having remembered the last time they crossed the Atlantic, the Swedes give up after this.
Oh, okay. Good idea.
This is their one attempt at it, and it doesn't go well.
There's like, we'll just take the rest of the Baltics.
Yeah, we'll just stop making fun of you.
Yeah, it is.
And Swedish meatballs.
Yeah. We're gonna issue a prize for science.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Instead.
Forget everything else that the Swedish probably did.
Yeah. But yeah, that's going to see a lot of these smaller nations sort of fall through here now, or the less colonial, ambitious ones.
It's a really nice way to say colonizers. The colonially ambitious.
Yeah. Well, to be fair, they're all colonized in here, but some of them are more ambitious than others. I mean, if your only colonial empire is Gambia and Tobago, you're not really doing much as a colonizer. You're still a colonizer, but you go
big or go home, guys.
In the back rooms of the club.
He's just not quite the same kind of colonizer that we are.
You're the colonizer that all the other colonizers look down on for being too small. We get to watch for the next century plus the French and the British fight to the death over this island.
That's pretty usual.
Again, I feel like I've heard this story before.
A
couple of times.
Have some fun with it. So the story begins anew in 1748. The French colony of Martinique decides that they're going to build a fortress on Tobago and reinforce that claim for the French government, where all the boats just keep circling the island and do nothing. This is actually resolved by diplomacy.
Between the French and the English?
Yes, the English say that we are deeply unhappy with this fortification of Tobago. It's not really your island. You've never built on it before. And now this colonial governor is trying to expand his own colony, which you're not allowed to do as a colonial governor. Only the central governing colonial power can expand the colonies. You, the runner of this colony, cannot. So France agrees to leave Tobago and destroy the fort by claiming that Martinique is overstepping its bounds as a colonial settlement by trying to claim more territory.
This is the most peaceful interaction between the French and the English for within the last 800 years.
It gets worse. In addition, the French and English governments shake hands and agree that Tobago will now be a neutral territory for both nations. Peace for all.
I am speechless.
Wow. Let's see how long this lasts.
8 years later.
Of course.
Honestly, longer than I expected.
Yeah, that's true.
The 7 Years' War breaks out, and Britain just decides that the best policy is to wipe the French out of the Caribbean.
Not just
So
out of the Caribbean, just in total.
Anything with a French claim on it in this ocean is gobbled up by the British, including Tobago.
Oh, well, that was
Here's
expected.
Here's where things get weird. Treaty of Paris, 1763, end of the war. All the islands England took from France go back to France, with one specific written exception: Tobago. And for the life of me, I have not figured out why.
I was gonna ask, is there a reason why?
The best things about Tobago are it has natural ports for your ships, and it's very close to the Spanish mainland, which is great if you want to dominate shipping in that area, or at the very least pose a threat to it.
And then also, if all the other islands were returned to France, you already have a launching point to attack both the French and the Spanish.
The downside is, with the exception of Trinidad, Tobago is fairly isolated. Trinidad is under British control, I believe, at this time, so they may have just wanted the set.
Oh, okay. Were they going to build houses or hotels on there so that way next time the French or Spanish landed there, they could charge them rent?
It's like building hotels on the Brown property, man. It's right there. It looks cheap, but it's hell and a half to get.
God damn.
Jeez.
And in 1763, Tobago officially becomes a British colony.
Yay.
This
It took how long?
This doesn't lead to habitation. Instead, what happens is in 1768, British people who are not on the island take a map of the island and begin to sell land shares of it to just random people.
This is like the world's first timeshare.
Seriously, everyone's got their hand in the cookie jar. Everyone's trying to make money.
It keeps, yeah. Anyway, they divvy it up, and the British government starts selling, the rights to land to go live on the island and do whatever you want with it. 1770, Tobago begins to export. Tobago exports sugar. This is a bad idea. Not only is sugar a plantation crop, which in itself is very bad for human reasons at this time, Tobago is not the place you want to grow sugar. Not ever, not ever, not ever, not ever. For one very important ecological factor.
Birds?
There is an ant.
Oh, no.
That lives on the island of Tobago that thrives on sugarcane. And throughout the 1770s, the colony struggles to produce anything. It is not helped by the fact that in addition to the ants destroying all the crops, all the Africans that have been imported to grow them get fed up with the pointless labor and rebel more often than not.
Good for them.
Honestly, yeah, good for them. Fuck oppression. Fuck slavery.
Most are killed.
You tried.
They die horribly. The revolts are never
Oh.
successful. They are all put down. But yeah, between the ants and the massive civil unrest, the colony is doing rather poorly. Now, one plus side for this colony, the plus side for this colony is unlike all the ones that came before, it isn't starving, it's not disease ridden, and the indigenous people, unfortunately, at this point in time, are no longer able to effectively resist. The great legacy of the Isle of Despair is coming to an end.
Damn.
With this division as a British colony. The 7 Years' War is really kind of the end of it for them.
God, they really, like, you gotta, at a certain point, you've gotta honestly commend the effort that a lot of these European nations put in, both for the acquisition and upkeep of this island, but just the repeated attempts. I mean, this was like a consistent thing. It wasn't just a one and done. It wasn't one person failed or multiple people failed. They just were like, all right, he failed. My turn. Well, my turn. I'm next.
Yep.
For an island in the middle of the Pacific that was only really good for
Atlantic.
port. Atlantic.
Right?
Yeah, Atlantic. That's only really good for a port.
Yeah, it's a plantation. What is the word? Ecology. It's viable for that too. So it's worth money to these people. That's about the only
they lost more money than they ended up gaining from it.
True, but let's not underestimate greed, especially here.
True.
Come to America.
America.
But
America.
But don't worry, not all hope is lost because the Isle of Despair's legacy does get a few last kicks in here, even without the native islanders there to keep it going. Because 1781. Welcome to America, everybody. The Revolutionary War is underway, and the French have arrived.
About damn time.
The French march on the island of Tobago and seize it.
Hold on, wait a minute. That's not America. Hold on, I think they got a little lost, guys.
No. This was big brain on America or on France's part because they're like, Britain's occupied fighting the war in America, which we're financing. Mm-hmm. And then they're like, we're gonna take their property.
In addition, the American Revolution forced a number of ships away from British colonies in the Caribbean to fight in the Revolutionary War and to supply the British Army there. The French, by attacking these colonies, were effectively forcing the British to choose what they had to defend. They were drawing ships away from Charleston, away from other important ports, away from Boston, New York, all these places where the British were effectively laying siege to by just docking their ships in the port and daring the Americans to come in after them.
This is honestly, though, one of the most underappreciated aspects of the American Revolutionary War, though, was French participation, because we learn in American history classes that France supported America in the war effort, but they don't go to what extremes. And to open separate battles, separate fronts, or to attack other British assets while they are trying to fight versus America, like, there would be no revolution without that level of support, because, like you said, they were pulling ships in from those areas, and then Britain had to make the decision, like, how do we allocate our resources the best?
Yeah. We also overlooked the fact that the Spanish was also helping. I mean, like, we had a huge import from cattle coming from what is now part of the U.S. now, That also be the
what was
colonies.
formerly Spanish colonial claims, formerly Mexico, now America.
Yeah, so a lot of nations actually ended up helping.
Didn't we
Uh,
do a podcast on that? Right, Republic of Texas. Check it out.
yeah, oh yeah, that's right.
There we go. More shameless plugs. We're
We've
covering all these
we
It's our
topics.
content, so it's fine.
we all look. We go over all these different things in our various
It's
various
almost as if,
podcasts. They all tie together, people.
yeah, I would say it's almost as if history is all interconnected and is never formed in a single vacuum.
Or, it's a cyclical cycle where everything just repeats itself over and over and over again. You just get minor variations in the simulation.
Listen. We can go into the Matrix and the Greek concept of time with you later, Justin.
Okay. If you guys want to see that as a podcast episode, be sure to leave a comment down below.
Yeah, I already did my time with the calendars episode. Anywho, the Treaty of Versailles cedes Tobago to the French. So now Tobago is a French colony. And they proceed to force all the English out. So the issue with this is that the French seem to forget that if you're going to colonize a place, you need to bring people, and the French don't come to replace the English who leave.
I like France's colonization style. Like, we're just going to take it. We're not going to do anything. We're just going to take it.
They were probably a bit distracted at the time, given this time period.
Shh. We don't talk about that yet.
So after 9 years of just steady decline under French rule as the colony just bleeds population, 1790 rolls around, and the French garrison on Tobago mutinies and destroys the city of Scarborough. Now, France is also going through some revolutions at this point, so everyone is mutinying, or mutinying against the mutiny to mutiny. So
I'm going to mutiny against that.
Yeah. Things are pretty bad, but the French garrison of a French colony destroys a French town in 1790. That is what is happening on Tobago. It makes about as much sense when you say it out loud as it did in real life.
It hurt itself in confusion.
It lowered its own HP.
Yeah, none at all. Yeah, it's Pokemon logic here.
Yeah.
1793, the British seize Tobago from the French because Napoleonic War is going on.
We love the Napoleonic Wars.
Yep. 1802, Treaty of Amiens returns Tobago to the French in exchange for the cessation of the Napoleonic Wars. We're just going to reset everything to pre-war state. Right? I'll be good. Don't worry. 1803, Britain invades Tobago. Because, now, the reason this keeps happening, where someone goes to war, seizes a colony, then gives it back in peacetime, and then immediately takes it again, is because a lot of treaties stipulate that for peace, we are going to reset the boundaries to before the war. This was designed so that no nation of Europe would feel that it had been unfairly treated and then spend the next 20 years holding a grudge and building up its own military in secret to unleash some sort of genocidal reign upon the 20th century.
I wish that would have held up.
God, little on the nose there, eh, bud?
Yeah. And so what would happen is you would make peace, you would reset the borders, and then whichever of you was actually the victor would effectively get 1 or 2 free shots in to take what you really wanted, as long as it wasn't a major territory.
Not to mention, it was also just straight up a bargaining chip. You would take the colony and say, okay, you return this piece of land of mine, and I'll return this colony of yours. It's an even trade.
Yeah, if you ever get into trouble with France in the future, you can always offer them Tobago as a peace offering. But yeah, it is.
Chip.
It's pretty sideways. 1814, Napoleonic Wars are finally over. France officially cedes Tobago to Britain.
What the
This,
fuck?
my friends, is the end of our story. For you see, children, no one else tries for the island at this point. Spain is not the great colonial master it once was. Britain and France have beat the shit out of each other for, I don't know, 25 years at this point.
In this specific instance.
Yeah,
No
centuries.
one,
Otherwise.
yeah, there's no lucrative, massive silver shipping lanes to just park your guns and boats right off the coast of. It's just another spit of land. And given the fact that the American Revolution has occurred, other revolutions are starting to brew. Colonial empires are kind of out of fashion. And so nothing happens. Nothing really happens to change the balance of power on Tobago until 1879, where Tobago loses its right to have a legislature. England decides that they want to govern this colony directly without any of those pesky little colonial legislatures like the ones that declared, liberty or death over in the 13 colonies. So it should be ruled directly by the crown without any elected officials. This, while deeply unpopular, does not cause any real, shall we say, waves for the island. 1889, Tobago is merged with Trinidad as a joint colony, forging the foundation for what will become the nation of Trinidad and Tobago. Got some nice forward progress. 1899, Tobago becomes a ward of the joint unit Trinidad in Tobago. A ward is what happens when you are a millionaire in Gotham and you adopt a small child whose parents were killed in a circus accident. No, it is a
Bad joke. Bad joke. This is a Marvel. Oh no. Just take a really hardline stance. Like Marvel only.
You wearing the mouse ears?
No.
We're not bought by them yet.
Yeah, Disney does not own our IP yet, but they might.
But it owns Marvels.
And Foxes.
And Pixar.
No, Kim Fox, whatever shall she do?
Oh. On that note,
anyway, should we go back to the normal stuff? We're on the last.
So they're no longer a ward.
Yeah. No, they become a ward, which is just it's just a subdivision within a colony. It's just an administrative district. It's how Britain decides how things are governed. It's how it breaks down. Like the U.S. Federal, state, county, town. It's kind of like that. It's England, colony, ward, district, that kind of deal.
And at what point you get ward of the state with the little orphans and everything?
And we're back there again.
Yeah. You were so mad, and yet you were so mad, yet you couldn't leave it. You couldn't leave it. All right. 1925 is the first major constitutional reform for Tobago, in that it now allows some of the appointed officials to be elected ones. There are now 7 members of the government that can be elected.
Now introducing democracy.
Yeah. It's pretty interesting. 1945, they are universal suffrage is granted to Trinidad and Tobago. 1962, they gain their independence. And in 76, they become a republic of the British Commonwealth of Nations. And I make that sound really nice and smooth and peaceful. It was not. There were rebellions, there were deaths, there were a lot of very angry people forcing these things to happen. Uh, these last few things from 25 to 76 here, um, let's just say it's not given willingly.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
But unfortunately, as the Isle of Despair, this is somewhat beyond that point in history, so we didn't really go into it all that much or record a lot of detail for the notes for this because, quite frankly, we're not talking about Trinidad and Tobago, the modern state. We're talking about, oh dear God, how many people are going to try to land here?
You know, we tend to have a running theme on this podcast of being very cyclical, and this is one of the times that is another failed colony attempt. Although, unlike the Darien scheme, it's not Scotland, and this time it lasts for more than a couple of years.
Yeah. Yeah, the Darien Scheme was a very fun podcast about a failed colony, and this one is just history's greatest failed colony because no, everyone tried and everyone died trying to land on the Tobago shore side.
And even though the English are the ones who finally gained control, did they really win?
No, absolutely not. They didn't win. Nobody won. Literally nobody won.
Technically, the English did win by virtue of last man standing.
This is like a Pyrrhic
And
victory in terms of colonization.
well, look on the bright side for this, Aaron, because England won. They now have to deal with all those issues of repatriation and uh, remedies and apologies for all the things that everyone did to this island.
And, you know, as history has gone on to show, the British are very open and very accepting of the idea of repatriation.
What timeline are you from?
Yeah, the British Museum. Finders keepers, we're still looking at it.
Finders keepers, too bad.
Yeah.
What's mine is mine and what's yours is mine.
And then we're going to set up some very
Wait, did you
arbitrary
just quote
rules.
Jesse from Pokemon? I swear that line comes up several times way back in like the OG Indigo League version of that show.
And
on that beautiful bombshell, we are going to wrap up today's episode. If you guys enjoyed today's podcast, be sure to leave a like down below and be sure to subscribe so that way you don't miss out on any future episodes. Coming up up here shortly, we are about to release a quite a few reads. We've got one coming up in the pipeline, right, Colum?
Yes, we do have a number of shows coming up. So the reads for these coming weeks here are none other than The Man Eaters of Savo, a lovely little diary entry about a British man hunting lions in Africa because, well, they were getting in the way of British colonial projects. We do have a accompanying explains to go with that to talk about the project and the lions. They are on display at the Field Museum in our very own Chicago, so we're very happy about this coming set. Mm-hmm. And finally, for Halloween, we have traveled. We have sent me all the way down to Historical Humans Outpost 31 to meet with our historical human scientists and do a reading from Who Goes There, a 20th century little novella that is responsible for John Carpenter's The Thing.
I'm still amazed that you managed to get there and back so quickly.
It's a wonderful place. It's a wonderful place. I have not been replaced by anyone. Can I see you alone for about 5 to 10 minutes?
And then after that, to wrap up the month of October, the last podcast we're going to be doing is going to be All Hallows Eve, or Samhain. And
let's get spooky, y'all.
Yeah, keep your eyes peeled for that. But thank you guys for watching, and we'll see you in the next episode.